Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fernelli. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 tailgate, where they have caught on to the scent, gentlemen. They have. They've caught it. Because on Wednesdays, we do big game breakdown, all right? A deep dive into the matchup of some of the biggest games of the week. And in some cases, it's a mid-game breakdown. And look, there is a lot to be taken out of a mid-game breakdown week, because that's also don't screw it up Saturday. You know, that's also in the week where only bad things can happen. We at least got to turn the spotlight to the stakes, the significance, and the way that some of these matchups will end up playing out, or how we think they're going to play out as we go into a week 6. We did break down, in my opinion, probably the two biggest games of the weekend already. Yeah, so Tuesday's show on CBS Sports Network, we really went inside the matchup of Ohio State, Iowa, and then Michigan, Washington. If we have any more thoughts lingering here that could not be confined by the television format, we'll of course have some time here today in our big game breakdown episode. So we will actually tackle more games here today. So that's what you get. You know, there's the give and the take. We'll rip through a bunch of our notable matchups from the weekend and a bunch of our thoughts on how these teams match up. But first, a spin through. Okay, fast forward conference realignment. Don't care. We'll catch up with that later. That's a June, July episode. All right.
Well, you don't want to talk about Texas State saying no?
What did they say no to?
They said no to the Mountain West.
Oh, okay.
They saw UTEP go and they say, you know what? We'll just stick in the Sun Belt.
Do you know what I thought about? And this is like, I feel bad because of how high horse this makes me sound and how much of a wet fart this would make me at a dinner party. But I do think that this is true. There are thousands of college football players right now who will be doing something other than sports by the time any of these changes happen. And I think to not talk about the players and the teams and the games that we've got right in front of our face in October, to discuss the maneuvering of university presidents and athletic directors for changes that will happen down the line. We have an economy of time, and I'm not going to waste any more time, but I've thought about this a lot. That's generally where I am. You know, we can catch up on this stuff when we don't have games to discuss.
If we're not going to talk about the SEC Big Ten meeting that Dellinger reported last week,
which I also okay, leverage and power. More news at 11.
Right, exactly. Like, I don't want to do a whole lot of conference realignment stuff unless there's like something that would have a serious trickle down effect throughout the entire sport, which means you kind of have to, like, at least for me, I'm top down focused in this conference realignment stuff. If you want to go from the Sun Belt to the Mountain West, I'm still going to watch you. I don't really care what conference patch is on your jersey. I don't, right? Like, is it a good game? Are you going to play an interesting style? You got a cool up and coming coach. You got some fun local traditions. Can I bet on it? Check those boxes. Are you on CBS Sports Network? I'm going to watch it. I don't really care what conference you're in, man. Like, these conferences ain't been around long enough to have super long-standing conference-only rivalries. Your rivalries are your regional stuff for the most part.
Sounds like Bud's woke. He's colorblind. I don't see conference.
I don't see conference.
I just think the Pac-12 and Mountain West should have just merged.
Yeah, that was a fair point. 100% fair point. But one thing that is in front of our face and is very interesting is the way that things have been going so far for Trent Dilfer at UAB. And he caused some scuffle around with the locals and the local media when he tried to, his grandson wanted to come join him at the podium after Saturday's loss. And he used the phrase, "It's not like it's freaking Alabama, but you are in Alabama." And of course, as the media pointed out to him, that there's an interesting, dynamic and relationship that can get very, very touchy when it comes to that. But look, you went to grad school at Alabama. You're very aware of some of the, not politics, but the relationships, that go on right there with the local community. What'd you make of Dilfer's stance here as he went back and doubled down?
Like, I know Trent. I like Trent. I don't get why he kind of has to talk about the program like he's like shitting on it in comparison to like other jobs. Like, you took the job. you didn't have to take the UAB job. Like, it seems like you had a guy who really cared about rebuilding it in Bill Clark, right? And I think Vincent, obviously, the ULM coach, would have probably been interested in it as well. And they went a different direction. And I know kind of why they did. But if you want to have your grandson come sit with you at the podium, you could say, hey, Steve, sorry for interrupting you. My grandson wants to sit next to me. Like, do you mind? Right? Like, I don't have a huge problem. It's a working press. Like, I'm not going to do like the capital J journal, like working press boxing. I get what he's saying, because there are not a million questions to get to. If that's the comparison you want to make, like, hey, at Alabama, there's a million people with your hands up, a pretty good chance you never get called on, almost certainly no chance you get two in. At UAB, you can probably get your question. There's just no need. It's like an unforced error, I think, to handle the situation in that way. And then yesterday, to like double down on it, when I think it was John Duncan who was asking the question, it was like, man, it's just easy to say, you know what, I could have handled that better, right? Like yesterday with the impromptu Indiana Ole Miss take. I'm actually a little bit less married to the Ole Miss thing than I am to the idea that Indiana is not a lock at 11-1, because they probably have to go to the Big Ten title game at that point, which we'd be talking like 11-2. So yeah, you know what? Hey, I'll own that. I probably probably screwed up a little bit. Like
I got him.
Own that. Stopped it. I probably messed that up a little bit with the Ole Miss part, but I'm kind of like I'm not totally divorced from the Indiana part. So anyway, I don't know why Dilfer's doing that, man. Unforced errors. We all make them.
Mikey, yeah, we do. Mikey, if you need the beep sounder to add to this so we don't get flagged by iTunes and or Apple, because you have to, then we have to mark it explicit, and then there's some people whose family settings, if like we do an explicit episode, it doesn't go through, and so yeah, it's okay.
I'm just gonna start dropping F-bombs now, but no, as a Medill grad, my only thought is your grandson can wait 5 minutes.
Sure.
I mean, you're at work, and I understand that not every work environment is the same, but I mean, are your kids hopping on during the show?
Not typically.
It's happened.
But the Halloween costume episode, occasionally we'll bring them up, right?
Well, it's like you're doing a press conference and you're saying there's only 2 reporters here. It's only going to be a few questions. Your grandson can wait 5 minutes until you answer the few questions. Let's be honest, like athletes and coaches have been doing this for a while now, and it always happens seemingly after a loss. Like after a bad game, suddenly somebody's adorable child shows up on the dais with them because it acts as a shield. And it's just, it's silly to me. Like your grandson wants to come up. All right, grandpa will be there in a couple minutes. Okay, buddy, just hold on. I'll be right there. I got to do some work real quick, and then go. And as far as the comment, what he said is true. Probably don't want to get caught on the hot mic saying it. And like you said, after you're asked about it again, just be like, yeah, I was just pissed off. We lost. I wasn't in a very good mood.
Tulane coming to town this weekend. Not on our big game breakdown slate, but I don't think it's getting better.
That's not within a 15 or within a 14-point spread like all of our big game breakdowns or mid game breakdowns are. Tulane's pretty good.
Do you think that right now, Tulane, Navy, Memphis, Army, is that your, not like projection of how many, like of just sort of the quality teams there in the American Athletic Conference? Is that kind of how you see the top of the conference?
Yeah, and I think probably in that order. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have Army ahead of Memphis, but my bigger question is, like, Navy and Army deserve to be up there now, but what happens when everybody kind of realizes that what they've changed and what they're doing? Like, when you go into Navy expecting option and Blake Horvath is dropping back and throwing bombs all over the field.
7 touchdowns, 1 interception. Yeah. Let's go.
And teams kind of start adjusting to that, expecting it. Will they still be able to do it? I don't know.
I think that's fair. I'm also not entirely sure that Navy is actually better than Memphis. I mean, that game was in Navy. It was a horrible spot that we called out. I mean, we bet Navy money line because we thought it was a really bad spot for Memphis. Memphis played them pretty evenly, right? And Navy jumped them. Like, if you play that game again on a neutral, I think you probably have Memphis slightly favored.
But I think the fact that we're having the conversation of
Huge credit to
Memphis and Navy is like we've slid one team down, we've slid one team way up, and like to me that's just a top tier, right? And yeah. I think that Navy and Army have joined a top tier that includes Tulane and Memphis. We expected Tulane and Memphis. Well, maybe we didn't expect Tulane. John Summerall's done a really good job, but that sort of is. I don't have my projected wins schedule breakdown analysis set up, but that if we were to just stack them up, those are the teams that I feel like occupy the top tier.
Totally. I also have a lot more confidence in Navy than Army at this point.
Yeah, because Navy can throw.
And Navy's played some real competition, whereas UAB is better than Temple, probably on par with Rice, and clearly better than FAU. Those are like the three best teams Army's played. Like Army's not a scam. Army's competent, but we don't really know how Army's going to fare. And they don't play anybody decent for
a long time.
Yeah.
They're at Tulsa this weekend as a double-digit favorite. And maybe you're going to, John Summerall, North Carolina.
Chip perked up. He's like, oh, man.
Oh, yeah,
yeah, you see that? He's like, ooh.
That was so honest. Oh, no.
You enjoy winning. Yeah.
That would be so never mind. That's for another time. Yeah, sure. I think he's a good ball coach. Anyway, coming up on the other side, we kick off Big Game Breakdown with a very, very special guest as we take a look at Missouri's trip to College Station to Texas A&M. Next.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
As we are back here on the Cover 3 podcast, and this is a multi-layered introduction and announcement, because in case you missed the big news, 24/7 Sports very fired up to add powermizzou.com to the 24/7 Sports family of networks, just the leader in Missouri athletics coverage. And we are pleased to be joined by Gabe Darmond here. Gabe, thank you so much for coming to join us on the Cover 3 podcast.
Appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, when we said we were going to 24/7, the first thing a bunch of my friends said was, "Can you be on the Cover 3 show now?" And I said, "I don't know. That's not really up to me, but we'll take a shot."
Well, it is up to us. So
long wait. It was a long wait.
It was.
All right,
for Adam Stanko and Joel Cox and all those guys. Yesterday was like signing day for us. 24/7 Sports. It's like you knew you had it done or thought you had it done for a while, and then it was like, cool.
It was a big day for us too, and then I actually slept last night, so even better day today.
All right, well, I'm glad you got that rest, because on Wednesdays we like to go inside the matchup of some of the biggest games of the weekend. We call it Big Game Breakdown. And of course, we have our eyes on that Missouri-Texas A&M battle. Before we get specifically to Texas A&M, while we've got you here, Gabe, how would you assess Missouri's season so far?
Good enough, barely. The only goal was get through September at 4-0. They did that. The BC game, I never really felt like in the second half they were in danger of losing that game. The Vandy game, I very much felt that. I thought going to overtime they were beat. And I think if Vandy doesn't shank a kick and they go to 2-point conversions, I don't want to be facing Diego Pavia from the 2-yard line every down. And I think they're probably losing that game. But they avoided doing what Ole Miss did last weekend, what some other teams have done. They survived. If they get to where they want to go, nobody's really going to care that it took double overtime against Vandy. But I think the defense has been a step better than I thought it was going to be early in the season. And I think the offense has been a half step to a step worse than I thought it was going to be.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard to say. The numbers, Brady Cook is mostly the same player he's been, right? I think he's missed a few throws. He's hadn't been quite as good this year as last year. So he does need to level up a little bit, but they're running the ball really well. Nate Noel is going nuts. Luther he's not having an unbelievable year by any means, but he missed 2/3 of the Buffalo game because he was sick, and he didn't do anything against Murray State because nobody had to do anything against Murray State. So we're really only talking about 2 games. They've had no big plays, which is a big part of it. And everybody wants to say a big play has to go 60 yards in the air, but nothing's stopping these guys who have been talking about being the best receiving corps in the country since March from taking a 7-yard slant and going 55 yards with it. Nobody's really done that either. And then, I think the second part of it is, and I've overused this stat so much since I found it 2 weeks ago, they've had 45 drives. They've crossed midfield on 36 of them. And they're still only averaging 4.3 points a game on a drive on those drives. They've attempted 3 more field goals than any team in college football. Their kicker is way too involved in this football team right now, and that's not an insult to him. He has a nice leg, but he should spend a little more time on the sidelines.
Which is interesting because A&M, the team they're going to play this weekend, like that's what Mike Elko does. Like, you know what? We're going to play red zone roulette nonstop. Craps, no. Blackjack, no. Elko's up there. We're going to spin red zone roulette every single time. And like, they're going to have to find ways to create explosives with run after catch. Like that to me, when I look at this Missouri team, like everybody's playing them so far back, and Buffalo, I think, did it because they wouldn't get blown out. And BC kind of did the same thing. And obviously Vandy was able to run with the Virginia Tech receivers and press them a little bit, but I don't know they had to that they're going to play that every time. Right. And Va-Tech receivers are not, what the Missouri, can Cook hit these guys in stride so that they can explode after the catch and not have to gather. Right. That's kind of when I watched them so far. I'm like, damn, that's open if it's a better pass and give them a better chance to take something deep. To me, that's the number one factor in this game. Can Missouri get yards after the catch against A&M? Because you don't get over the top on A&M. Nobody's done it really all year.
Which, if that's the case, this is the game that Luther Burden needs to show, hey, this is who I really am, right? They've openly talked Biletnikoff, best receiver in the country. I think almost everybody thinks he's a top 15 player in the NFL draft. He's almost impossible to tackle. I mean, he's as good as anybody I've seen at Missouri once he gets the ball in his hands. So this is a game he needs to show that. And definitely part of it's on Brady. Part of it's on the receivers. And you'd like to see him could be a factor. Marquise Johnson isn't going to play in this game. And he's a kid that a lot of people that don't watch Missouri regularly probably don't know who he is, but he averaged 30 yards a catch last year. He was the kid who caught the fake punt to turn around the Kentucky game. He was the kid who finally caught the long one against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, and after the 2.5 worst quarters of offensive football between two teams I've ever seen, and that kind of opened things up. So they don't have him this week. So who is it that they might be able to sneak behind a secondary or break a play?
You mentioned how they've been taking a step forward defensively this year. It's actually kind of surprising because they're currently first in the country in defensive success rate. They're doing a good job of limiting explosive plays. They're kind of like Texas A&M in that aspect, although they play a different style. What have you seen from them defensively that has caused them to kind of take what's been a pretty tremendous step forward?
Yeah, I mean, they shut out 2 really bad football teams to start the year, and that obviously helps the stats, right? But the crazy thing, their defense has faced 215 snaps. On 212 of them, they're giving up 3.3 yards of play. Then on 3 of them, they've given up 21 points and 200 yards. It's like the bad plays have been so catastrophically bad that it actually makes the defense look worse than it is. I think down to down, this defense has been borderline elite. I think they've been really good, and they have had 3 absolutely awful plays that they've given up half the points they've surrendered on the season. So if they can teach the cornerbacks that, hey, it doesn't really matter what happens with the quarterback in the backfield because you're 30 yards away from him and you can't do anything about it anyway, just go cover your guy. I think they've got a chance to be a pretty good defense also because I think they only play one good offensive football team this year.
And I don't think they're playing one this weekend.
Yeah. Do you have a Connor Wegman, Marcel Reed, fork in the road there in terms of how you think Missouri might be able to defend one versus the other?
So it's funny. I had Bud on our show yesterday morning to kind of announce we're coming to the site, and he says, "Hey, I think Connor Wigman could be back, and I think he could play for A&M." So we go to Eli Drinkwitz's press conference yesterday, and his opening statement is just gushing about Marcel Reed and what he's done for this A&M offense, and all. And so I said, that makes me think that you were 100% convinced Marcel Reed's the starter. Are you prepared also for Connor Wigman and what happens if he plays? Eli looked at me like this was the dumbest question he'd been asked at all. He said, this is purely semantics. I know they have him at the top of the depth chart. It's a game Mike Elko's playing. He's not going to play. Marcel Reed, they built the entire offense around Marcel Reed. They're moving the ball. They're winning games. There's no way he plays. So that either means he 100% believes that, or he wants Mike Elko to think he has not prepared 1 second for Connor Wigman and he wants Connor Wigman in the game. If I'm Missouri, I would love to see that kid in the game because I know what he was supposed to be. And I also watched him play Notre Dame, and that was a borderline disastrous quarterback performance.
Do you, Gabe, have you ever seen Princess Bride?
You know what? There's like 3 movies I've never seen that everybody's
okay.
always offended. I've never seen, and that's one of them.
Yeah, it seems like it's like, but you think that I would put the poison in your drink, but then you think you put the poison in my drink, and then you like, right. Again, this is what Mike Elko and Eli Drinkwitz are doing right now. They're like they've each galaxy brained their way into preparing for every single possible quarterback scenario. I love college football coaches when it comes to that kind of stuff.
They spend all week doing it, and then 2 drives in, everybody knows everything everyone else is doing.
Yes, exactly.
Is there do you think Drinkwitz would prefer Reed, though? Because when I think about it, Missouri has faced 3 run-first quarterbacks. Pavia, Castellanos at Boston College, and then I can't really pronounce the Buffalo kid's name, but he's certainly not throw first. So they've seen a lot of reps of. UConn kind of they shut them out or come pretty close to it. So they've seen a lot of rushing quarterbacks this year. It does make me wonder, are they getting more comfortable with their plan of defending that? It's like maybe you'd actually, Reed's been effective, especially against UF, although everybody has been effective against UF so far this year. I kind of wonder about that.
Yeah, it's definitely been a storyline here. Somebody asked Drinkwitz yesterday, and he just kind of laughed and said, yeah, this is just what every week is now. But also, isn't that kind of what college football is? I understand there are degrees of mobility. Not everybody's Jalen Milroe, but how many college quarterbacks are any good that aren't a threat to take off and do something with their legs? Like Brady Cook is not a runner, but you have to be aware of his running ability when you play Missouri. And I think most guys are like that. So I don't know that it makes a big difference for Missouri which quarterback they play. I think probably the biggest difference in this week versus other weeks is the other guys on the offense should be more capable of making plays than BC's guys were, than even Vandy's guys were. Like whoever's at quarterback, he should have a few more weapons and a few more guys that can maybe help him out.
How confident are you in Missouri's rebuilt offensive line to block A&M? Because those guys turned it on in the second half against Arkansas in a major way.
I think it's the matchup of the game. Armand Membo, right tackle, Marcus Bryant, left tackle, Nick Scorton, and I know they've got other big guys, but obviously Scorton's the main guy you got to worry about. Membo is I think he's a guy that a lot of people think he's a guy that could go to the NFL after this year if he wants to. He's probably a guard in the NFL rather than a tackle, but he's been a 3-year starter, really good player. Marcus Bryant's going to be interesting because nobody at Missouri or fans weren't all that concerned when Javon Foster and Xavier Delgado left last year. They spent 2.5 years trying to replace Xavier Delgado at left guard. And then Javon Foster, 4th round pick of the Jaguars, good solid player, but nobody was panicking. And everybody said, oh, we got this all AAC guy from the portal. And it's what we do with the portal, right? Oh, it's the new shiny toy. We love him. Well, what happens if that guy comes in and he's a really good AAC player, but he's not an SEC player? And I'm not saying that's Bryant yet, but everybody just handed him the job and thought, hey, we're good. And I'm not 100% sure that's true yet. So I think that's probably the biggest matchup. And there's a big debate. I think Missouri's offensive line has been better than a lot of people think. Hadn't been elite, but I looked it up after the Vandy game. Brady Cook's getting pressured less than all but 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. He has not actually been under that much pressure.
I will say also for Missouri fans watching this, the Ezaraku kid for Boston College kicked the crap out of a first-team All-ACC left tackle in Tallahassee, had a nice game against Missouri, and then was like National Defensive Player of the Week last week as BC made their comeback against Western without their quarterback. So there is, like, the sample set is only 4 games, but there's a pretty good chance Ezaraku is just a total badass and like is going to be so I wouldn't feel quite so bad about that. I was like, damn, like FSU's left tackle played really poorly, and I know this kid's good. And then like, oh, he also had a nice day against Missouri, and then he like terrorized Western. I maybe don't feel quite so bad about that. He's good.
Yeah, to the point about the pressure, like Mizzou ranks 8th in pressure rate allowed so far this season. So they've done a very good job of protecting Cook. But I do think, like, kind of what to your point of what we were talking about, Scarton is probably the best that they will have seen. So we're probably going to get a much better idea of how good these tackles are on Saturday in this matchup.
He was actually supposed to visit Missouri the week after he went to Texas A&M, and so kind of doubly painful if he has a big game for Missouri this weekend.
There were a lot of teams that were thinking they had a shot, and then A&M locked that down on that opening weekend. That was that was big. Let me ask you this: so A&M's receivers have not been great this year. Like, they're kind of, by SEC standards, pretty mid. How confident are you that Missouri can, really devote that extra attention to the run game if it is Reed and let their corners hold up on the outside?
So that's my big question about this defense. I mean, they had 2 NFL guys last year, in Chris Abrams-Drain and Ennis Rakestraw, and Blake Baker. If you guys have watched Blake Baker, like, his favorite thing is, cool, can I just send everybody and have my cornerbacks defend wide receivers, right? And he could do that last year because he could put Ennis and KAD out one-on-one on guys. Toriano Pride, Drayden Norwood, who actually transferred from Texas A&M, and he's been Missouri's best corner. He never played really at A&M, transferred after a redshirt year, but we're going to find out a little more about him. Again, I don't know if this is the week we find out about him. Like, do I want to put those guys one-on-one with Ryan Williams in Tuscaloosa in a few weeks? 100% not. But that's the only team that really scares me throwing the ball on Missouri's schedule. So I think you go ahead and find out if you can do it. And if you can't do it early, then make the adjustment.
All right. Before we get you out of here, Gabe, game predictions, thoughts. How do you think this one ends up playing out?
So my thought all week is A&M has one way to win this game, because A&M really has one way to win every game. It has to be 21-17. That's every single game A&M plays that they win is 21-17. The ones they lose are usually like 27-24, right? They play every game the same. I think if Missouri gets to 27 points, I don't think A&M can do that. I think Missouri can win a low scoring game, but they can also win something that gets to the 30s. I don't think A&M can do it. This might be super unpopular. I know it will be in College Station, but they don't like me anyway already, so it's fine.
Let it fly.
I think the Kyle Field home field advantage is actually fairly significantly overrated. I don't think it's like the toughest place to play in college football. They're 26-22 at home against Power 5 teams since joining the SEC. They're 34-1 against non-Power 5 teams, so good for that. But Missouri's won quite a few games down there, honestly. I think Missouri gets this done, something in the neighborhood of like 27-21. I think it's another one where Missouri fans would like some relief at some point in the fourth quarter and probably won't get it this week, but I think Missouri wins.
Gabe, appreciate it, man. What, you run any kind of specials or anything for people to sign up?
We are through the end of tomorrow, at least. It's not up to me how long it lasts, but at least through the end of tomorrow, 75% off. It's I just keep saying you don't even have to skip the fancy coffee. Just skip the cheap coffee once a month and you'll pay for it.
He is Gabe Darmond from PowerMizzou.com, now a part of the 24/7 Sports family of networks. Gabe, thank you so much for joining us. And coming up on the other side, our breakdowns roll on with a quarterback change in Tallahassee, with some big stakes battles and tests for teams on the road. All that and more next. Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. If time slots are to be believed, this is one of the 6 biggest games of the entire Week 6 Saturday slate. It is Clemson going on the road to play Florida State. And look, I thought about like in all seriousness, there needs to we got to at least get your thought on the quarterback change. and I think we kind of fold this into the whole handicap of the game in terms of how we think this is going to go. Because while Brock Glenn was thrown into the fire of the ACC championship game and then later on the Orange Bowl, he has spent a good portion of this season trying to prepare himself to be ready. We got a lot of word salad from Mike Norvell on Monday in terms of him really wanting you to know that he had already made the decision to put Brock Glenn in before the pick six. But now, we were at that time, we weren't sure what was going to go on with DJ with the finger injury. But I mean, this is Brock Glenn's team now, right?
I think so. It wouldn't shock me to see Kromenhoek play as well. I think part of the word salad from Norvell is that they do have some level of confidence long term in both the guys that they have on the roster, like not DJ, obviously. The reason DJ's been playing is like DJ's been better in practice at operating the whole offense. Okay. Do I think they're going to run like the full menu of offense against Clemson? No. Okay. Brock Glenn is a much better athlete than DJ is. DJ also, to me, looks hurt, right? And I know we talked about this on a couple times, and shoot, almost every Nolecast episode. Like, how are you like running that slowly? Like, you weren't super athletic at Oregon State, but I mean, this looks like I'm watching the replay on 0.8. Like, it's just not good. So, yeah, I mean, this will be Brock's team for this game. It wouldn't shock me to see like some Kromenhoek packages because he's even more athletic. Like Luke was like an all-state safety before he became quarterback because he was behind a kid named Holden Garner, who was a 4-star signed, with Auburn in like his sophomore year. So, yeah, I don't expect much from the offense. Norvell has weirdly schemed open points almost every time that they have played Clemson. I don't know if it's like just the schematics that what they do matches up well at times what Clemson does. They were really outgunned the year that DJ came into Tallahassee, and they gave him a run for like 40 minutes, basically by scheming up explosive run play stuff and getting Clemson outgapped. So do I think they can do that again? Probably not consistently. Would it shock me if it's like an all-in effort and they find a way to hit an explosive play or something? Not entirely. I mean, like that's just given their track record. I mean, they scored up there at Clemson during like the year after the COVID year, so 21, when they had no business scoring like any points. But no, I don't think they match up well in this one personally. I'm a little. Should we be all the way back sold on Clemson's offense after the games that we saw this weekend?
I am more sold on Clemson's offense than I am on Clemson's defense, and here is why. I think that. And I need to go back and like check participation charts. And I'm sure, look, the way that Clemson fans and Clemson media continue, and that line blurs, the way that like they, follow all this stuff and do their tape breakdowns. I'm sure that they can call me to task on this, but later in games, teams have been able to move the ball. Now they are going up against backups, but it's like the NC State game and the Stanford game followed the exact same similar pattern. They come out, they lay the absolute hammer early, and then later into the game, it just the opponent just kind of lingers. And look, maybe that is something that you only notice. You're sitting on a minus 21.5 or a minus 20.5. But I think that there might be something instructive, at least in terms of how you want to look at this team, that, maybe from the perspective of, okay, they call the dogs off and it was like, yeah, but why didn't you just like totally, why aren't you totally stepping on the throat right there? So I don't know, just something that's sort of lingering right now, at least in terms of not letting a few late scores in that have been, have at least gotten my eye.
There's something to that. I think a couple things. One, I don't think they have quite the depth at DN that they used to have. And so the pass rushing reps, I think, suffer a little bit when the backups come in. Two, Peter Woods has been out, right? Yep. I assume he'll play this week. Like, this is probably one of the games you'd hold him for because like Florida State sucks, but at least athletically, like I think as a coach, that scares you a little bit more than if you're playing like a really well-coached Wake team. It's like, hey, like they can't run with us. Florida State can't get their act together, obviously, which is disappointing. And they may get their butts totally kicked up front with Clemson's D-line. But there are some things that would scare you about the matchup. I think, as a coach, just because like the caliber of athlete at some spots on that team. But I think you're right. Like TJ Parker had 25 pass rush reps last week. Like Jaheim Lawson was the next with 24. Trey Williams had 20. Like Capehart only had 11. Denhoff had 10. So some of your better guys don't have a million pass rush reps in these games for Clemson. I brought up the comment on the other side, Chip, because like the Georgia game from Clemson's offense now looks way worse.
I think that we have to put some stock into Clemson's offensive line getting better. Just playing more, I mean, guys were literally running into each other. I mean, guards were pulling and giving each other hugs. I felt like there was a lot of clunkiness in the execution. I thought that, you can lay some of that at Cade's feet. Certainly he did not look comfortable at all, but I think that group as a whole, and also remember Bryant Wesco only played like 8 snaps in that game.
Totally fair. They are using the young guys more, which has helped. NC State, when they weren't getting strip sack fumbles, allowed Northern Illinois to drive the ball on them. Like that's a little concerning. And App State obviously, who has a worse defense than App State? New Mexico, Kent State, probably Ball State. Like I'm shooting off the top of the dome here, but so I don't know. Like I think Clemson's offense is better since the Georgia game. I'm having a hard time quantifying how much better, personally, because they haven't played like a mid-level defense yet. They've played really good in Georgia, 2 really, really bad in Stanford and App. And I think we have to keep downgrading NC State's defense every week until they bottom. But I don't know.
I don't know if I would consider Florida. I don't know where I would consider Florida State's defense.
Yeah, is Florida State's defense better than NC State's?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah,
I think there are more talented pieces. I cannot say that the execution is better.
They have both been victimized by horrendous field position created by the offense just screwing around and turning it over as well. So that's hard to differentiate.
All right, as we keep it rolling in sort of an ACC corner, SMU, which just won 42-16 at home. Now they're going to be going to the house that Papa built to play Louisville. Louisville, was resilient against Notre Dame. We're going to see SMU's defense tested. Somebody pointed this out in the tailgate right before we got started, and I thought it was a pretty interesting comment. Like how different does the BYU game look now when we're trying to evaluate SMU, given everything that we've seen BYU do? Which again, we're not judging BYU based on the little number beside their name in the AP poll, but we are judging BYU as a team that has stacked multiple wins against power conference teams and done it their way for the most part. So
I mean, what was
and that was Preston Stone. Kevin Jennings, I guess, played a little bit in that game.
What did that game close? Kevin Jennings played, I think, a lot of the second half in that game because they realized they could not protect Stone at all. Like they were getting their butts whipped up front, and just like they had to put Jennings in, I think, late in that ball game, if I recall. I think that loss has aged better, but also like SMU is better now that they finally pulled the plug on the Stone experiment, just went to Jennings full time, right? So they are better, I think. What was the spread on that? Like that was, I mean, they were favored by 12.5. Okay. I also think if you watch that game, like part of the yakety sax thing of FSU was, I mean, you get a guy that is wide open. DJ actually makes an okay throw to him, hits him right in the face mask, and it pops up like he's setting a volleyball for a pick six. Like, they had guys open that DJ either didn't see or they didn't catch. If they play the same way on defense against Louisville will hang 50. Like their FSU's offense is just it beats itself quite a bit. But in watching that, they had a lot of uncapitalized opportunities. So SMU's defense has got to tighten up a little bit. And I think when you watch how they played against TCU, they had like 38 points of EPA off turnovers and special teams, which is tremendous, but probably not sustainable. I don't know, like unless you think they found a way to just buy the turnover gods. But like, does Louisville get off the mat? I don't know. Notre Dame found some passing success against Louisville. I could see SMU doing that too.
What'd I miss?
We did a breakdown debating how much improved Clemson's offense is.
Oh, it's the best. Kate Klubnik rules. Sorry.
This is
a game for Tom for sure.
Yeah.
2 games in a row that Garrett has schemed up something that leads to like a 60-yard galloping Cade Klubnik touchdown. And I'm just saying, the boy he looks athletic, certainly, but it's just it's one of those shots that there ain't a defender within like any green space at all. So it's, I think everybody's getting more comfortable. Anyway, Tom, what do you think? Do you think Louisville gets up off the mat against the Mustangs?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, I'm totally messed up right now.
You got a little Irish Illustrated?
No, it's vomit. Lots of yellowish vomit. But yeah, no, they lost to Notre Dame last week, and I think that's losing on the road to Notre Dame is not something that's going to cause me to write them off. I don't think that they are as good as their early numbers suggested, and I think we learned quite a bit about them in that loss and that they do have flaws. But I look at SMU, and it's like I think it's a good team, but it's not a team I look at and say, oh man, they're fantastic. I do think the Cardinals are probably going to bounce back with a win against here because they've made the QB change at SMU, and I think it's better for their personnel and it's better for them long term. But I don't think it's an offense that truly scares me.
Yeah, they're also, I think, a bit of a momentum team at SMU. And like, I don't know how well they play from behind. Like, when they got down to BYU, it became very one-dimensional. When they got up on TCU, they were able to play and hit some play action stuff. And Shuck is the best quarterback they will have faced by far. I mean, Shuck is good.
Yeah, Shuck was playing well again in the Notre Dame game for the most part. It's just
Shuck's a draft guy, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's the health is the only real question with him.
No doubt. The chat saying Tom had to go throw up because of the all the FSU talk, which is pretty good.
My stomach is in worse shape than the FSU offense right now, boys. That's really what it comes down to.
I mean, this is the battle for the 3/4 in the ACC.
Yeah, where I'd written SMU off from being in that position, and now they've kind of come back and announced their presence for sure.
And part of it's the schedule. Like SMU, if they get through this one, they have a very favorable schedule the rest of the way, I think, right? I mean, didn't we think in the preseason that Cal got the most screwed, Stanford got kind of screwed, and SMU got a real gift?
Of the newbies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Duke, BC, Cal, Virginia, Pitt, Stanford. No Clemson, no Miami.
And they've already got Florida State behind them.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it'll SMU is a vibes team. Right? The Iron Skillet was a vibes game. Florida State snowballed in a vibes game. I think it'll be important for Louisville to come and throw a great first punch. Miami and Cal.
The algorithm.
Can Cal block them?
How healthy are they?
Is Ruben Bain playing?
Yeah, Cristobal suggested that he was going to play this week. They have been holding him for a couple weeks now.
Yep.
Watching the Cal FSU game, like FSU gave them a lot of opportunities to win, and then ultimately that FSU won the game because they just kicked Cal's ass up front. Like they couldn't block FSU consistently. Miami is way better at linebacker than FSU. Probably better at safety, corners. I don't know. I don't know how much Cal can score if Miami comes with a focused effort. But Cal defense is the best defense that Miami will have seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was like. The thing about Miami's game last week against Tech was we saw Cam Ward when he was under pressure revert to the whoopsie daisy stuff that he did in his previous stops. Cal comes into this game. They're ranked 5th nationally in pressure rate now. Some of that might have been that Florida State game. So it might be skewed a little because, again, the sample's small. But they've had a decent pass rush. So if they're able to get pressure on Cam, will he make those kind of mistakes? Because we saw, like, he made incredible plays against Tech, but those mistakes are what gave Tech a chance to win that game. And if he's making those similar mistakes this time against Cal on the road, it's going to keep Cal in the game and give them a chance to win this. So I think a lot of this is going to come down to what version of Cam Ward do we get? Do we just get the superstar or do we get the flawed star?
Cam lit up Wilcox last year. The prior year, it was not good. I mean, they scored 28. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it could have been better.
All right. What about as we pivot our attention to the SEC? Will Cocktober rear its head as Ole Miss travels to Columbia to play South Carolina in the same spot where South Carolina gave LSU all it had and kind of choked it away? You know, a lot of bad mistakes from the Gamecocks right there. You had to deal with Lenore Sellers getting a little bit banged up. Lenore Sellers maybe back, expected to play.
Yeah, according to Beamer.
Ole Miss, here's the thing that stands out to me. I thought that Kentucky kind of whipped Ole Miss's offense up front. And I think South Carolina, like Kentucky, however flawed they might be offensively, they cause a fight at the line of scrimmage with their defensive line. And so I think that the issues that Ole Miss had with Kentucky are still issues that could play a role in this game against South Carolina. Now, on the vibe side, we've got a Jackson Dart called a meeting. Called a house meeting, y'all.
Did he switch the hoodie out?
This is this.
You see this?
He might have had his Tebow speech moment. All right, like this. You've never seen anybody work harder than Jackson Dart for the rest of the season. But what? How do you see this one, bud?
So I agree that Kentucky largely whipped Ole Miss up front physically, but they also did a really good job of confusing Ole Miss's blocking stuff up front. Like they got some free runners that were not just physically whipping. So I know Ole Miss is like, hey, we got to be better at handling some of these twists and stunts and whatnot. Like we're not great, but we have to be better in terms of how clean our operation is and how good our communication is. You know what? South Carolina is pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. They got to LSU's protections really well. I was impressed. By the way, the graphic on this is wrong. It's Ole Miss 9.5, not 3.5. If it was 3.5, I would fake like I'm going to throw up like Tom and then go like quad bet this. Tom really threw up. I would fake it in order to go bet. Okay. So look, I think where South Carolina is different is that they're probably similar to what Kentucky is at corner. I do think Kentucky has like some draftable guys at safety, and that was important in the way they defended Ole Miss. I don't know that South Carolina is quite as good there as Kentucky is. So that may allow Ole Miss to get more explosive plays here. Also, like Kentucky offensively, there were a lot of plays that went their way, and they still only scored 20 points. Ole Miss defense, I think, is pretty good. So how many points does South Carolina need to win this ball game?
Oh, I think they've got to get to 28.
At least.
That's hard, man, for this offense, unless they get a lot of turnovers. I mean, LSU's defense is hot garbage, and what did they score on them?
33, right?
And that was with the punt block?
What's interesting to me, just a fun little factoid about this game, because we know about like Lane and Scripps and how good they are to start games. Ole Miss so far this season is averaging 6.2 points per drive on its opening possession of the game, which ranks second nationally only behind Army, who is averaging 7 points per drive on their opening possession of the game. South Carolina is yet to allow a point on the opponent's opening drive of the game so far this season. So you might have a decent idea of how this one's going to go on the very first drive. If Ole Miss marches down the field and scores, probably going to be a blowout. If they don't, we might have ourselves a game.
South Carolina wants to rock fight this in the worst way. Chip, I think you're probably right that they need 28. Like if they get 28, I feel like they could probably win the game.
Also, and look, apparently they went 0-4 in October last year. People are trying to throw me off the scent. That's exactly when you're due. Okay. This is when it happens. This is when we throw it down. A special teams or a defensive touchdown just seems to be in the cards here.
Also, Ole Miss has not had their bye week yet, and South Carolina is coming off their bye week, so they're one of the few teams that has not yet had a bye. Look, there's a lot you can argue for, but ultimately, can South Carolina score points? Because Ole Miss's defense is real. It's kind of like Kentucky's defense in terms of quality, I think. And shoot, you could tell me it's better than Kentucky's defense. I don't know how many points they can actually score in this one.
So, how many points is Arkansas going to be able to score at home against Tennessee's defense?
I mean, we just know this is a home run all-in effort, right? I mean, 7:30 night game there in Fayetteville. I
mean, Arkansas is a chaos team.
Yeah.
It's like
Doesn't
this is
Tennessee have the look ahead, Tom?
I don't know. Let me look. All right.
No, I'll tell you.
They do not have to look ahead. Florida's on deck. Excuse me.
That game doesn't matter. That's a scrimmage.
But you're right about the like. I want to say because they played Pine Bluff in Little Rock. This is only their second home game in Fayetteville. They played UAB, which got dicey until they righted the ship late. And then now they're going to have this Tennessee game. I think it's going to be like all in from all the tens of thousands of Arkansas fans. I think it will be like if there's going to be a time for Bobby Petrino, Sam Pittman, for everyone to just like pull out every single thing that you've got, it is obviously against this team. Yes, this is a Super Bowl game for Arkansas.
So what's like the last, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just saying, my thing with Arkansas is I feel like when they're playing other mid kind of teams, they can look really good and really fun and have a chance. I just feel like when they play a top tier team, this is probably a squad that's going to get its ass kicked. So I think that, I mean, they're at home, so maybe things will be evener, but I just kind of wonder if Tennessee doesn't absolutely blow the doors off them.
Maybe a preview for tomorrow's show? Question mark.
Maybe.
Like the last really, really good home Arkansas atmosphere you can remember at night was that Texas game from like
the
2 years ago.
Season, yeah, it was a non-conference game early in the year.
Yeah, I remember like that place was nuts. Like if you're Tennessee, can you just deny explosives? Because I do not think Arkansas can sustain drives on you. You haven't really faced a decent offense yet. I think Arkansas's offense is better than the Oklahoma offense, right? It's certainly better than what NC State was running out there at that time, and probably better than what NC State is still running out there. But like A&M got a lot of pressure on Arkansas, man, and Tennessee can kind of rip on the D line. This is also a situation Arkansas has not yet had a bye week, and Tennessee just had theirs. There's a couple in the SEC this week, so Arkansas has not had theirs yet, right? Auburn's not had theirs yet. Ole Miss has not had theirs yet, and A&M has not had theirs yet.
I love our tailgate that rock with us because Kyle.
Oh yes, I got a text about that. That guy.
All right, so to those listening at home, the large audience that gets us on the audio form, we appreciate you as well. Kyle in the tailgate said, "Bud, when is Arkansas open gun season? Are we factoring that into the pick this year? A callback to when we found spots in the Arkansas home schedule that aligned with the start of open gun season where there might not be that home field advantage. Like maybe you're trying to throw a 2.5 because, you know, Fayetteville can get a little loud, but you can't have it as a 2.5 if you know that, you know, there's going to be a good portion of that fan base that's going to be out taking advantage of the calendar.
Especially like if the team's not good, there's a real chance that the dad is the one deciding, are we going to the game or not? And the rest of the family may or may not choose to go if dad ain't going. So, and I believe it was not open gun season; it was long gun season, right?
Long gun season.
Yeah. So when rifle season opened, as opposed to bow season. Shoot, I can see I can find this. Somebody in the chat's got to be an Arkansas fan, right?
They might be hunting right now, though. You know,
that's possible. You guys got a good little hunting scene up there in Illinois, right?
Yeah.
Like not really in the city, but
I just got to go outside my backyard. I can go get you a stag right now.
oh my gosh. When I think I had to be like 5 or 6. My neighbor shot a gator from inside his home, like out his kitchen window, bro. Like,
That's
he had a little problem with the bottle and also with the law, but it was.
But I tell you what, you shot that gator.
I remember I was watching. I don't know I was watching Top Gun, so it had been released on VHS.
You always remember the details.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
okay, what?
I was watching Top Gun, and it was just about to be that part, and just when I heard a bang.
What was that noise? Oh, Dale shot a gator.
Oh my God. Yeah, don't fire guns inside of a house. That's not the best. What you guys don't have rifle season in Illinois?
No,
The chat saying?
I don't think so. I don't think there's limitations. I don't hunt. I can't really tell you, but there's limitations on what kind of guns you can use. Yes.
Gotcha. We did move shortly thereafter, but like maybe a year or two after to a little bit nicer neighborhood, which was good.
For those asking, on Tuesday's show, we gave a big game breakdown of Ohio State hosting Iowa. That is the big time Big Ten game on CBS for this week. You can watch it at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can stream it on Paramount Plus. Also, we gave a breakdown of Michigan heading to go play Washington. Lots of good notes there. Be sure to go check that out on Tuesday's episode. You can see it on demand on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Any other thoughts on that we did not discuss? Or if you want to turn your attention to Rutgers, Nebraska, USC-Minnesota, anything got your attention?
The only real additional thought I have on Washington, Michigan is just kind of a one-sentence thing. I was talking to a buddy last night who likes to break down games, and he was like, why do you like Michigan? Like, all of the metrics for Washington are awesome. Like, they've been much better success rate on both sides of the ball. I was like, honestly, because Michigan has already played 3 offensive lines that I think are materially better than what Washington runs out. And I just think that Michigan's defensive line can kick the crap out of Washington's front and ruin their game plan. He's like, all right, fair enough. Like, that's plausible. So we'll see if you're right. He's still going to bet Washington. So
I'll probably bet the under.
That was not one sentence, but it was kind of one thought.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I mean, it is not that different from my USC-Minnesota thought, which again, I detailed.
It's a win game, Chip. That is one of the 5 windy games this week. Rutgers, Nebraska, 20 miles an hour, gust of 37. Mile an hour, not knots, by the way.
That is
October, baby.
That is advantage Rutgers, right?
It is. Let's see. Let's check the weather.
I think so, but also it kind of like
I don't think
like
the wind is not slowing down Kyle Monungai.
That's fair.
It's currently 59 degrees here, boys. It's October.
Tom, you're you have an interesting. I got you guys as 15-mile-an-hour wind for the Northwestern game, but gust of 32
along the lake. Those forecasts don't mean a damn thing. The lake is its own atmosphere. It's its own environment. It's the sea.
They should have put this like literally on some huge floating barge. Like that would have been the biggest home field advantage Northwestern could have had. Like why are we playing this on land? Like literally put it in the lake.
I mean, it honestly kind of is.
It's on the aircraft carriers.
Yeah, it's funny. We haven't gone back to an aircraft carrier basketball game, have we? Tried that out a few times. It's like,
was it not good?
Well, it's funny, bud. When you're on the ocean, you deal with more condensation than you would when you're inside.
Who could have seen it coming?
Who could have seen it coming? Had a hard time keeping the court dry and decided that maybe that's not the best conditions for player safety. Come on now. Yeah, Rutgers, Nebraska. Dylan Raiola is the best thing about Nebraska's offense, right?
Yes.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got good receivers, but yes.
Yeah, like throwing the football. I think Rutgers, as Bud pointed out, defensively is not going to be like they don't quite have the personnel to just be this like juggernaut. but they're good. They're good enough to be able to cause some problems if Nebraska can't run the ball. If Dylan Raiola has to face 3rd and long every single time and try to push the ball down the field through 32-mile-an-hour winds.
Rutgers has had problems allowing explosive plays this year. They did a little bit better job against Washington. That was an improvement area for them. Given how bad Nebraska's kicking situation is right now, I don't know if you guys watched this against Purdue, but would they have 3 field goals blocked? Multiple, like just operationally, it was not good. You have to deny Nebraska's explosive plays at all costs and just see if you can win red zone roulette, I think, if you are the Knights.
And you might, because Dylan
Totally
gets a little casual.
And then, but you threw in a little Texas Tech Arizona game of incredible significance to the Big 12 title race. Certainly, I'd be curious what your sort of like matchup angle is to this, because I've got a good read on Arizona. I don't have a good read on Texas Tech. Feel like they've kind of been 3 different teams so far this year. But if they found their footing coming out of that 44-41 win against Cincinnati, it's going to be encouraging for a group that looked a little lost in the woods there for a minute.
I mean, Texas Tech played 2 teams in a row and beat both, who I think are better than people think, in Cincinnati and Arizona State. Obviously, like they played North Texas when the Eagles had a bunch of guys out. So, or Texas Eagles, right?
Falcons?
About North Texas, they're the mean green.
Oh, mean green, yeah.
But didn't they used to have like a little like eagle on the side of their helmet?
They have an eagle logo, but they're the mean green.
Which Chip could have interpreted as a falcon.
Yeah,
fairness.
bird.
So.
I was Matt. Yeah. Anyway,
in case anybody gets confused with like the nice green.
I think Texas Tech's playing pretty well, but Arizona is as well. Like if you had told Texas Tech before the season, if you told Arizona before the season, you will split the Utah and Kansas State road games, I think you're taking that 100% of the time.
yes.
Like if you told Brent Brennan, hey, dude, you can get a split here, cool. Now, not having Rising is certainly relevant to this, but this is an important game for the Big 12, like really important. The winner of this game is going to rocket up like the Big 12 championship odds. It's big. They're both like, I think both quarterbacks are playing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like Morton's playing nice. And if you go back to the game where they played Washington State, they put up like 490. They just couldn't score. They had some turnovers. They had some 4th down stops and whatnot. But I could see Fafita lighting up this defense as well, for sure. I mean, Texas Tech's defense is not it's not really good. So we'll see.
Tech fans put me on the hater list, but
this is an 11 Eastern start.
Wait, oh wow.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
But Texas Tech fans can put me on the hater list, but I keep watching you, and even though you keep winning, I just don't think you're very good.
Let's go. Throw him on the hater list. Shout out to Ben Kercheval. He just threw his phone that we didn't get mean green right away. Denton's finest.
I got it right.
Yeah. Right. Got mean green in that toilet.
There's even an independent podcast called The Mean Green Show. I should know this. Yeah.
We're going to lose the North Texas market.
You know, honestly,
I know a lot of people who went to North Texas too. That's the funny part.
Oh, Haley.
Haley went to North Texas.
Haley played soccer at North Texas.
A local Chicago media personality, Layla Rahimi, went to North Texas. Like they're producing some media folks out of there. I don't know how. They just got a great media school. It's basically on par with Syracuse and Medill.
Folks are saying.
Folks are saying.
Yeah, man, if you're an hour and 10 minutes into this thing with us, this is kind of your show, right? Like this, I think it's where we kind of shine, breaking down games that aren't like the mid-game breakdown shows. Sometimes they're not as fun, but like this was fun.
The longer you stay, the greater odds you'll see me vomit on camera.
Let's get out of here.
Oh, hey, if we want to see Tom vomit, all right, now let's do 10 minutes on Wake.
Get to 50K and I will vomit on the show.
All right, so the 2 games that didn't make the cut, Wake, NC State, and then also UNLV Cuse.
Let's see. Oh, UNLV Cuse Friday night's a fun football game because UNLV has not had to play an offense like Syracuse yet.
The reason why I didn't want to put this on there is strictly business. We get 24 or fewer hours to have people consume the VOD that will come out of that.
Wake State. Let's see. What was my one-liner for that one? I think I said the Down Bad Bowl.
More like sleep state. Bam. God.
The loser has no chance to make a bowl, right?
I mean, if NC State loses this game, I'll be shocked.
If you're
Wait,
doing a round robin money line parlay,
I would not be shocked, because just like as bad as things have been going for Wake Forest, they're not so bad that they are putrid and incapable of beating NC State. Like Louisiana just beat them at home, and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, like Louisiana just beat you at home. Louisiana's a good football team. Like it's not great that you just let Louisiana come into your house and beat you, but it was a close game. It was a competitive game. That Wake team can absolutely beat NC State.
No, they can't.
If NC State's quarterback plays like a freshman yet again, they can.
This is a circle the wagon Saturday for NC State. They're going to get everything together. They're going to pound Wake into the dirt.
If this line for UNLV gets to 7, are you betting, Cuse? Like, what's the number at which you have to hold your nose and take it?
If it's over 7, yes.
For UNLV?
UNLV is favored by about 6.5 right now. I'm more interested in something else, and you can find that out on Thursday's show. We'll be back at 11 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday to give you our best bets for week 6. I think we'll have Danny back. Hope so. Much love to his family. You know, it's a big week with the fam. I'll let him update as he wants to. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernelli. You can follow him at BudElliott3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See y'all.